projection. Hey, it's Bill Krueger. He's with us, our weekly Monday chat with William Krueger, former Mariners pitcher, of course, analyst, baseball analyst, ROOT Sports. It's all brought to you by our good friends, his good friends, Rise Above Foundation, Native Youth Foundation.org. He's got a golf tournament coming up, does Bill. We'll talk about that at the very end. NativeYouthRiseAbove.org. But Bill joins us every single Monday to talk Mariners baseball. Well, and we appreciate Bill joining us. And, of course, we appreciate you watching on YouTube and listening on Apple and Spotify and Amazon. Please rate, like, subscribe wherever you are taking in this podcast. All right, Bill, what a weird series against Arizona. I mean, they could have swept the Diamondbacks.
Sure.
Okay? And yet, their offense really didn't do anything. They had multiple games where they had 5 hits and were able to win games. And, of course, they lost the Sunday game. But as you're going to tell me, good pitching beats good offense. And they proved it this weekend.
Elite pitching dominates other teams. So it just goes to show you this team is basically a couple of homers a game, and they're winning. They're winning holding teams to 2 runs or less, and they're just slamming the door on people. So I think it just goes to show you this team, when it was struggling early, everybody was like, where's all this offense? Where nobody's getting on base? All these guys aren't hitting. But really what was killing them is their starting pitching was meandering around the middle of the league with about a 4.8 ERA. Now they're climbing to the top of the league, and they're showing that it's every game they have depth, because Emerson Hancock is throwing the ball great.
Mm-hmm. Is it sustainable, like what they have done offensively? I mean, it's the starters have allowed 17 earned runs in their last 16 games.
Yeah.
That's good, isn't it? Yeah, that's pretty good. Is it sustainable?
I think, you have to say fair, to be fair, no. To be able to door slam everybody every night, I think they have the ability to be really consistent. The idea that they're going to lead the league in quality starts, that's real. They did it last year, and I think they're going to be even better at it this year. I think Kirby's more experienced. Logan's more experienced. Emerson Hancock has filled in admirably for Brian Wu, who's almost ready to come back. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. Castillo's kind of righted his ship. So there's a lot of reason why quality starts are going to be they're going to lead the league in that. Now, if you get 6 plus 3 or less, 2 or less, they're going to be good. And their bullpen, the bullpen of No Names plus Munoz has really done well. I mean, they have depth. We're concerned about Matt Brash. Well, I'm sure you're going to ask me about that later. But for right now, that they've been able to not have to make that group carry the team, and that's why it's working well.
Yeah, it's amazing. We'll get to getting into that bullpen. It's amazing what they've been able to do without Matt Brash, without Santos, who they acquired there here in the offseason out of the White Sox. Those 2 guys obviously are not healthy, and they may not be healthy for the rest of the season. Haven't contributed at all. It is. Yeah, they don't need much, right, offensively, especially if their pitching is going the way that it's going. It is weird, though, that the way that at least it seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong, the way that they wanted to build things offensively and how they wanted to score runs and be more efficient, this is not the style in which they're doing it, because they're doing it how they've done it the last few years, just by the long ball, because that's how they're scoring their runs is home runs. I mean, they're not getting a bunch of guys on base and hitting extra base hits and things like that, moving kind of the old train along. Is it concerning at all offensively how they're scoring runs? Do you look at it that way, or does it not matter? They just score X amount of runs, and with their pitching, they'll be fine.
Well, you have to lean on your best players, and we know Rodriguez is their best player, and he's been able to kind of revive his batting average. He's putting more balls in play. And he's kind of playing like Ichiro right now. I mean, every 2 hopper in the infield is a knock, right? And he flips a few in there, and he's getting on base a lot, and his game is not developing. The slugging part of his game is not happening. And slugging is more than just hitting homers. Slugging is hitting doubles, triples, right? So he's important. He's got to be a mainstay, dominant centerpiece player for this team for them to really, really achieve. He's going to be that important. Cal Raleigh has come alive. Cal Raleigh's got a bat that can slug, and that's really important with a team that doesn't have a lot of left-hand hitting. Haniger, you've seen that, he's doing more than probably we expected, and he's certainly filled in where we've lost, where Suarez's bat was sitting, with, I think, a little better average, a little bit more ability to put the ball in play. We're talking about two of their acquisitions that came with, a calling card of getting on base, and you're starting to see some things that you start to watch that are concerning. We're watching Garver and Polanco. Polanco's got a much longer resume, but his game, when you look at his numbers, has been dwindling over time. We've had to point at injury and say that's the reason, right? He's walking. So his on base is like 320, but he's punching out and he's not hitting the ball very good, right? And Garver, he did hit a little bit this weekend, but again, I mean, both those guys, when I watch them as a pitcher, it is a freeway of outs pitching them away. A freeway of outs. There is, I mean, take a big California freeway and put it on the inside part of the plate and just say, if you could throw it inside that freeway, these guys are out.
Why do you think that is? I mean, just watching from afar, were they like that in the past? I'm gonna assume they weren't like that. So why now?
Polanco's got an open stance, and his first move is the other way.
Huh.
I mean, if he gets the ball in the inner half and he gets something that he's timed up on, he can hit it a long ways, right? He's discerning. He walks. And Garver, his only chance is middle in. I just watch his bat. His bat doesn't cover the outside part of the plate. So, I mean, these are things that seem pretty fundamental to me.
So what would the adjustment be on that?
Right?
Yeah, what would the adjustment be on that one? If he's just locked in inside and can't get to the outside, what adjustment does a hitter need to make there?
Well, he's going to have to closer to the plate, or he's going to have to change his approach. Square himself off a little bit. His first move's got to be a little bit more toward the pitcher. He opens his stance up because, so we're talking about Polanco, to see the ball with both eyes. I get that. When you watch him right-handed, he's a little bit more square to the ball. He's a little bit more up the middle of the field. I mean, he preys upon guys that make mistakes, and he's going to take that ball. And, these guys have all developed into, like, how I really get paid is not hitting 280 and trying to hit 40 doubles. The way I get paid is if I hit 30 homers. And it doesn't matter how many times I strike out.
Yeah.
And Garver, to me, it feels to me a little bit like, yeah, I'm used to batting like 300 times a year, and I don't play every day. And, I was a nice player that hit down in the bottom of the order with, granted, he had a big year with Minnesota. He did have a 30-plus home run year with Minnesota. But it just seems to me like there's an enormity of responsibility that he was sitting in the middle of the lineup. The DH that's going to do that damage, he's going to hit 25 homers and hit, 280 and get on base 370. It's not happening. Now, he's done it before, but he's done it like not every day, like he's being asked to do now. I think that's weighing on him a little bit.
And that's a big, right, Bill? That's a big difference. Yeah. And that's a huge difference to what he was being asked to do in Texas. And it's a big difference, too, because, now gone are the responsibilities of him really ever catching anymore. And right. You've talked a lot. You've talked to Edgar about it. You probably have talked to Nelson Cruz about it. Mm-hmm. When that mentality, right, it's a hard adjustment for these guys when they're just a designated hitter. You got a lot of time. You're just sitting around doing nothing.
Yeah, you got to have a mental toughness, and you got to be able to figure out ways to occupy your time and not feel like you're just sitting there, you're holding a bat in your hands and grinding the handle into sawdust in between turns, right? There's something real about baseball and getting on the field, right?
Yeah.
There's something real about it. And it was real for Edgar. I mean, we go back in time, and when I joined the team, Edgar played third a lot, before he tore his hamstring in half, and that pretty much ended his career at third base. He was a line drive, high average, good fielding third baseman.
Yeah.
And Nelson Cruz, he could play the outfield. He could run low. He's a big guy, and he could run. He could run low. But both these guys matriculated onto that role, and they had the mental toughness, and they had this real understanding. The amazing thing about Edgar, and I've talked to him since he's retired, and talking about his ability to prepare for a game, and then his ability to end the game, to be able to sort through what didn't work or what may have gone wrong, sort through that, recognize it, ditch it, and start the next day anew. And that is a remarkable quality that not every athlete has. In fact, I said to Edgar, both of us were, disciplined people, and we weren't out and about after the game was over. Why didn't you come down to my room and talk to me a little bit about that? Because I sure as hell needed some of that help to get the games that I didn't do very well. But those guys are able to do that. And Nelson,
it's amazing because you just think about we talk at all level of sports, right? And I don't care what it is. It's always about, you hear a common message or theme. Hey, let's turn the page. We got to turn the page in the next play, especially in baseball. I mean, I use that a lot with our little league kids. Hey, kid strikes out, comes back crying. I'm like, turn the page. You're playing third base next inning. Or you're pitching. You got to forget that. And it's hard for anybody, a professional, but especially an 11-year-old, to get over. But yeah, I think it's a great point you bring up that even at the professional level, guys in their late 20s and 30s who have been doing it forever still struggle with that. And I'm with you. I think that's the adjustment Garver right now is having the biggest issue with.
Yeah. And we need to continue. They've kind of pushed him down the order a little bit. And he started to find a little bit of success, but I mean, as a pitcher, I break people down. I watch where the bat is, and I watch repetitive kind of approaches to hitting, and I know what I would do with those guys. And they're preying upon. Sometimes I look and I say, why we have all this information? What's amazing in baseball is the information is bountiful. The information on where guys like the ball, the sequences, the percentages, all this stuff is all so readily available to you. But you know what? When you've taken your own personal effort out of the responsibility of that, your ability to understand it yourself, then you don't execute as well. I don't believe you do. Mm-hmm. It's just standing out there and you're just like a sea of openness, just kind of waiting for someone to tell you what the next pitch is you're going to throw. And then I sit there and they all say, well, it's great. Isn't it great? The catcher's calling. Isn't it great? It's not great. The pitcher should know what he wants to do. The pitcher should know best what he's good at, what he's good at that day, what makes him tick, and what the hitters should be trying to do to him. I mean, are you that numbed out that that's what we've become? I watch and I scratch my head sometimes and I say, wow, really? That's the choice? You guys have all that information. That's the choice. Wherever that choice is coming from the skybox and some bunker of information somewhere where someone's like, yeah, just really glad the game plan went well. And the guy never played a lick in the game, right? So I just kind of sometimes scratch my head.
Oh, you are the best. Gosh, so I love having you on. You know what? It's just love it. All right. I want to touch on Brash. I want to get to Kelnick because he's returning and all that. Yeah. Matt Brash injury. I just felt that this was inevitable, that this was going to come. He's definitely shut down now. All signs are pointing he's going to have surgery. He's going to go visit the doctor in Dallas, and most likely, at least I'm expecting it to end up, where he's going to be done for the year and going to have probably Tommy John surgery. What could have been avoided here? Do you think you look back to last year and you see how much he pitched and the amount he pitched late in the season? You even go back in 2 years ago and just the wear and tear on this guy. Is there anything they could have done better to protect him, or just because of the way he throws, Bill, the violent nature of it, how he just slings his arm, that this was just going to happen at some point? It's just happening probably earlier than probably people expected.
Well, I think, as a starting pitcher, we could protect you a lot more. We could protect you. Relievers, you're a little bit more, you're a victim of the moment. And when you have someone as electric as Matt and having such resiliency and his ability to post and come out of the chute and have way above the line stuff is tantalizing, right? And his attitude to be able to throw and to be resilient and have that kind of rubber arm that he could go out there. 78 appearances, which I either tied Ed Vandenberg or was, I can't remember, but it's the most appearances in club history last year. And you have to remember, Ed Vandenberg, I believe he tied it. I could be wrong about that. There's somebody that's going to correct me on that. But Ed Vandenberg was a left-handed specialist. There's lots of times Ed Vandenberg came in and threw to one guy. So Matt Brash, he's not, the load of what Matt Brash did compared to Ed Vandenberg is not even close. I would say this, that kid, I call Matt a kid. His look, where they put him in the moment was uber valuable to this team, and allow him to be just who he was and let it rip has worked great. It's helped the team win. He's an extraordinary ascending reliever in the game. But I always err on the side of, if a guy can start, I'd rather take just a little bit more time. And when he failed as a starter, I would have sent him back and said, look, we just need to get you a little bit more dialed in. Let's pick one breaking ball. Let's get a little bit more fastball command. Let's work on a changeup. Let's see if he can become a starter. Let's take one more moment to see if we can do that with him. Okay? Which doesn't address the injury. It doesn't mean that he wouldn't have gotten hurt had he stayed a starter. Who knows? And you know what? It's an elbow. So what does that mean in today's game? Really good chance he's going to come back and be 100%. But we don't know what it is yet. We don't know if he needs Tommy John. He was at full speed and having problems post his throwing events. So he had gotten all the way past everything. So it kind of makes me think that it may not necessarily be that. It's still possible that he just hadn't got enough underneath him before he was letting it go really hard, right? Okay. Because here's the problem. We were watching across baseball. Blake Snell, in and out, right? Mm-hmm. How did that work out? Did that work out well? Was that a good idea to miss all of spring training and then feel the urgency to push through? And what happens with young players? They're bulletproof. I'm ready. I feel good. Let's move to the next thing. Let's give me 3 innings. Let's give me 5. We'll be in the big leagues, right? How's that worked out? Same thing happens to these guys. They see they're needed. They want to get back fast. They missed a bunch of time. For every game you miss, it takes 2 to get back. Every time you miss a day, it doubles. Double, double, double. That's how it works. You have to take it step by step. So, I don't know. I'm not too certain that it's all over with. And I'm still, I love the guy. And I understand why the club was using him where they were using him. I understand it all. So, it's not, there's no one's fault here.
Yeah, it's because you're right. I mean, he's tantalizing, and they were in a playoff push the last couple of years, and he was a valuable piece to it. And right. You feel bad for the kid. Fingers crossed that nothing's bad out of it. And maybe I'm going to take your approach, okay? Glass half full approach to it.
Go there first.
Okay, I'm going to go there first, but I just feel in a pit of my stomach something bad's going to happen. But you know what, Bill? That's why we have you. You're always positive. All right, Jared Kelenic comes back.
Yep.
As the M's and Braves start a 3-game series. Why is he not on this team right now? I mean, they trade him. They traded him for, it was virtually nothing. Why is he not in a Mariners uniform still, in your opinion?
I think that, whatever happened behind the scene with Jared, I mean, we saw a lot of the immaturity, right?
Sure.
He got there quick. He thought he was. He felt like huge entitlement. And plus they kind of put him in the leadoff spot and said he's going to be great, right? And he kind of felt like he should be, that he was parallel tracking with Julio Rodriguez, mm-hmm. right? And so when it didn't happen, his confidence got hit really hard. It was a combination of things. He had too many people trying to help him. He's a really type A personality. Hard on himself, difficult. I think when you look at his background of him growing up, having been a mercenary ball player, never in school with his teammates playing, always being shoveled off to one place or another, his social skills, I think, suffered from that. And he had such success in the minor leagues and such a devastating start. And then it just felt like it was like, he wanted it so bad that sometimes he got in his own way, and then his immaturity, right? Now, I think the club just had enough of him, honestly. How else can you explain it? How can he just be a guy that says, yeah, well, we'll take Gonzalez's contract, but we need Kelenic if we're going to take his contract? Atlanta was playing with all the cards. They were being told, the Mariner organization was told, you're moving people, you're moving salary. So they weren't in a position of strength. And so to get Gonzalez to go, they had to throw in Kelenic. And that's not the way you want to. I'm not saying that it's wrong for Kelenic to be traded. What I'm saying is that he probably shouldn't have been a throw-in. I mean, right?
Yeah, I mean that's
right?
I just can't believe I can't believe.
Who knows what our return's going to be because they're both hurt, but yeah.
I can't believe that a former number one prospect and a guy that you had high hopes for, that even a year or two ago you're talking about a big piece of your organization, is literally a throw-in with Marco Gonzalez. I don't know. I think it's a failure on a lot of fronts. I think it's a failure by the organization. I think it's a failure on their development of him to not get through them. I think he shares blame.
Yeah.
I think there's no doubt that he shares blame with how he handled things, and he certainly could have been better. I mean, God, what is he, 23? I mean, 23 years old. I mean, I'm still immature now, and I'm 48.
Right.
So
right. I mean, there's just, hey, look, there's a lot of responsibility and blame to be shared.
Yeah.
And Jared, I would say this though. I mean, it's hard to tell exactly where it's going to land.
Mm-hmm.
We saw it in glimpses. We saw it for a month here and a month there, and there's a lot there. So. But baseball is more than just being talented. It's mental toughness. It's being able to play with others, being able to accept failure, accept criticism.
Sure.
And you have to have aptitude to get better. So these are things that he has a lot to work on there. So maybe it'll resurface for him.
Yeah. I always felt he put in the effort. I think what you touched on, though, I think it's the ability, which again I think is immensely difficult, especially in this sport of baseball, and you know it way more than I do. I think his ability to recover from failure and move on, and I think that has been the biggest thing and may continue to be the biggest thing for him. And maybe going to an organization like this where he's not asked to be the guy. He hits at the bottom of the order, and he's not even an everyday player. He's a platoon player. Right. That's the role for him. And you know what, Bill? He can carve out a damn nice career that way.
It's a good starting spot for him where he can build on it. We'll see what happens. You learn. I mean, I went through, we all do. You go through, you do great, and then you struggle. You get hurt, you struggle, and then sometimes there's a lot of, for me, it was a pitching coach that was overtly helpful, and it was forcing me to lose who I was. I was out there pitching like I was doing it like paint by numbers, right? My hands go here, my hips go here, my knee comes up, my foot goes down.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not sports.
Yeah.
I had to go back to the minor leagues and sort it out, and that's not what you want to do. And you know what? What it is that you have to be able to understand that you have things you have to get better at, but you can't lose who you are. Because who you are is integral. It is in your DNA. That is who you are. You cannot lose that or you're done.
Bill Krueger, ROOT Sports, all brought to you by Rise Above Foundation. NativeYouthRiseAbove.org is the website. Monday, June 24th at the Golf Club Snoqualmie Ridge. He'll be having his Rise Above Golf Classic. A spot still available. People want to get in if they want to participate.
Yeah. The field is starting to fill up, Jason, which is good. But there's still spots. There's still teams. We're looking for players still. It'll be a first-class day. Snoqualmie Ridge is a great golf course. It'll be a red carpet kind of an opportunity. Great food, great prizes. Meet some celebs. Meet Danny Glover. Meet Lenny Wilkins. The Detlef Shrimps, the Dale Ellises, the great basketball players of the area will be out there as well. So I think and to support an audience of kids that really need some help. We need to start getting them graduated from school. We need to do something about this horrendous teen suicide rate. That's what you're out there for, to help these kids reach their potential.
Okay, June 24th. It's a Monday. Golf Club Snoqualmie Ridge, Rise Above Golf Classic. NativeYouthRiseAbove.org for more information. Bill Krueger with us every single Monday talking Mariners baseball. You can find this anywhere. YouTube, please subscribe, like the video, comment below. Also, find Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you find your podcast. This drops every Monday at 1 o'clock. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Jason. Had a lot of fun.